Once upon a time, Donald Trump jokingly talked about bringing back the gold standard. Well, I always mention that's highly unlikely and probably impossible in today's day and age, but Russia actually just did that. They brought back the gold standard. So the moral of the story is to expect the unexpected is just expected. Now, when I first heard about this news, two different things came to mind. One is they aren't going to convert back to a full gold standard. It's going to be something like crypto backed by physical gold, as we see that becoming more popular, or it's just going to be extremely short lived. Now, there's a reason why Donald Trump was joking when he mentioned bringing back the gold standard, but it 100% makes sense why Russia would do this, as they are on the brink of a collapse. Any time throughout history, when a country's been in very bad shape, and almost always nine times out of 10 through a war, they confiscate the people's gold. Seen it time and time and time again throughout history. I even made a full video talking about every time a country has confiscated the people's gold, and it's always due to war. Now, let's look at this article because it is really interesting. I like how they also mentioned how it's unlikely to last, like I was also thinking when I first heard about this news. But let's just jump into it. So, the Bank of Russia, the country's central bank, has surprisingly announced a fixed price for buying gold with rubles. And also, do you think this is going to affect the price of gold elsewhere? This is such an interesting situation that obviously we've never been in. Yes, we got rid of the gold standard in 1971. And if you look at a graph of the dollar's strength, as soon as we got rid of the gold standard, the dollar plummeted, right? Plummeted. Now the dollar's lost 98% of its original purchasing power because it's not backed by anything. And so we got rid of the silver standard essentially a century earlier. Say that 10 times fast. Essentially a century earlier. But anyways, with a price of 5,000 rubles, which is 45,000 pounds basically, for a gram of gold. And to my knowledge, it's the first time that a nation's currency has been expressed in gold parity since Switzerland decided to stop doing so in 1999. Wow, I didn't know Switzerland got rid of their gold standard that recent. Enacting gold parity was common practice by the world's major powers for facilitating international trade payments in the era of the gold standard in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Now, the same was true in a slightly different way during the Bretton Woods era from 1944 until 1971, which was when President U.S. Nixon decided to end the system by removing the link between gold and the U.S. dollar. Now, this arrangement was held from March 28th to June 30th, but it was March 23rd when Putin would announce they would only accept rubles for European gas instead of euros and the US dollar. He predicted that Russia would at least extend this policy to oil, but it's gone further and signaled it's only in all commodities. Now, this is going to include other exports like wheat, nickel, aluminum, enriched uranium, and neon. Now, the main goal of these moves is to try to ensure the credibility of the ruble by making it more desirable in the Forex market, which I definitely think would happen. But who knows with the given circumstances with Russia? And I mean, this is going to be such an interesting situation to see how it plays out, since this has never, ever happened. And I never thought it would. So, what do you think will happen? Let me know in the comments below. Now, the main goal is to try to ensure the credibility. And the dollar, like let's do this. Let's break this down in USD terms. So the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. So everyone across the globe relies on the US dollar's strength. But the global situation definitely exposed how broke the United States really is with the trillions and stimulus, and we exposed ourselves. Now there's countries opting out of the US dollar, which is dangerous since the dollar strength is only as strong as people think it is, since it's not backed by anything. So if people literally think the dollar isn't strong, it's not strong. That's dangerous, especially now that you see countries opting out, as other people are going to also see that. And now there's some countries switching completely to crypto, some countries going back to the gold standard. Is this going to have more of a trickling effect and going to become a bigger thing down the road? as even we saw Federal Chairman Jerome Powell talk about something else existing with the US dollar, whether it be Bitcoin or I would think it would be something like Tether or USD coin, but he did mention, hey, one day there could be another form of currency equal to or even replace the US dollar. He really did mention that, and we showed that clip of him mentioning that on the Silver Stacking podcast. It was the most weird and just out of the blue thing I've probably heard in a while, that they would admit and acknowledge and announce publicly that something might replace the dollar soon. But anyways, as one can see in the chart below, the ruble collapsed in late February and early March when Western sanctions were imposed in response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The collapse looks like a rise in the chart below, and it's showing the number of rubles to the US dollar rather than the other way around. Now, this is obviously, it's pretty obvious to see what was playing while this chart was being made. As you can see, this is when the invasion started, goes up, and then you can see things start to decline as peace talks are happening. But then we see the ruble to gold, and things are starting to hold itself. You see how it would have kept going down, but now we see it's sticking right around the 84 level. So after the big drop, the ruble recovered somewhat, which is typical in such situations since it's known literature's exchange rate overshooting. However, the currency strengthened further after the rubles for gas announcement. And that's what he's also mentioning. Now, of course, there was going to be some type of correction eventually, but it's just ironic how it happened right when they announced that. On the back of the gold announcement, the currency has continued to strengthen to about the 83 level to the dollar, as precious metals analyst Ronan Manley has said. This makes sense if you reflect that the market price of a gram of gold is currently about $62 or 47 pounds sterling. That's fairly close to Putin's announcement that 1 gram of gold equals 5,000 rubles, which effectively creates a gold-based exchange rate of ruble, which would be 81 to 1 US dollar. Now, previous gold-based systems, and this is what I was mentioning. So we have similar situations with Bretton Woods system, which is he says, let me draw a historical parallel. The U.S. Coinage Act of 1816 fixed the value of pound sterling to 113 grains of pure gold, while the U.S. Gold Standard Act of 1900 determined that the dollar should maintain a value of 23.22 grains of pure gold. Taken together, the two acts implied that the official parity exchange would be $4.87 or 1 pound sterling. It was similar to the post-war Bretton Woods era. 1 ounce of gold was said to be worth 35 US dollars, and that would be convertible back to the dollar. So now gold was at the center of the system as a way of making money credible, right? But we lost all credibility in 1971 when we got rid of it. Now, of course, attaching the ruble to a gold standard comes with certain rules of the game that Russia will have to abide by. It should be willing to exchange gold for rubles with anyone who wants to do so. And that's what I was talking about, how it could affect the rest of the world in gold's price drastically, since there's rules and you would be able to exchange it back. Now, gold is such a safe haven metal, like a store of value, like even more so than silver, that I'm just so curious. Like I couldn't even try to, because we always determine what would happen from historical, situations, but this has never been a situation before. And today's day and age is so insane, anyways, that I'm just curious to see what's going to happen at play. And anyone who's saying they know that what will happen are lying to you, and you shouldn't trust them, because to be that, I guess, to be that confident in saying what will happen when you don't have any idea is lying. We don't know, right? We can have theories, but obviously it's just a theory. And to tell your audience, oh, this is what's going to happen, is blatantly lying. Now, the confidence I mean, you could have a very good, strong theory, but nobody truly knows. Nixon's unilateral decision to end the convertibility was the fear that the US would run out of gold, which we have destroyed the credibility of the dollar. And since that decision, the world has moved to a system floating exchange rates, and the price of gold has steadily risen as world currencies have become weaker in relation to it, which I was talking about as the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. But like they said, we got rid of the gold standard in fear that we would run out of gold. Now, that's also why I was mentioning how I don't know if Russia will be able um, to to really make this last. And that's also why in the intro I said this would be, one. I had two different thoughts. It would also be extremely short lived, and it might just be to recover from the war, which would make the most sense, and it's probably the most likely. But I'm not going to sit here and say I know what's going to happen. So the problem for Russia was if it's willing to exchange rubles for gold, it could soon end up similar situation to the U.S. in 1971. Right? Wars are an abominable state of affairs which has come with huge uncertainty. No reliable forecasts are possible. What I was just talking about. Anyone who thinks or is telling you they think they know what's going to happen is lying. Or they're lying to themselves, or they're blatantly just lying to you to make themselves look better. Don't listen. Now, um, there's actually reminds me of a saying, slightly skeptical and cautiously curious. Slightly skeptical was actually like a channel I was trying to do. It's just really funny that came to mind because you should be skeptical. Slightly skeptical is such a good saying. You should be slightly skeptical about everything in your life. Never trust anything because nothing is ever as it seems. The viability of Russia's maintaining a fixed rate of rubles for gold is closely related to what happens to the demand for Russian energy. So, anyways, what do you think's going to? And honestly, right here is the best thing. As much as this world or this would cause a further spike in prices and pain all around, it may be the most efficient and perhaps even the safest way to induce Russia to stop the war. And that's what I was talking about. This is 100% their best move. I just don't know if it's going to be very long lasting, right? Definitely their best move, though, since gold is what backs a country's wealth. We determine a country's wealth on how much gold they have, not how much money they're printing off. So definitely the best move. What do you think, though? Let me know. I'm going to wrap this video up here. Thanks for tuning in. The link to the article will be in the description. Also, if you've stuck around this long in the video, make sure to like the video, comment, share the video, subscribe. Really appreciate you all for all the support. Thanks for tuning in. This is Silver Slayer. I'll see you guys soon. Peace.